Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Shannon, for agreeing to chat with us today and share a little bit about your migraine journey. I'll let you start right in and tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, thanks, Julie, for taking the time today to meet with me. My name is Shannon Doherty, and I was born and raised in Ottawa, the capital city in Canada. And this is where I still live today. I'm 48 years old, and I've been married for 25 years this summer, and I have 3 children. My son is 22 years old, and I have 2 daughters who are 17 and 18. And we have a family pet dog, and she's a Shih Tzu, and her name is Nellie. I'm a elementary school teacher here in Ottawa, and I've taught all grades from kindergarten to grade 6. But I currently teach grade 3, which is my favorite grade to teach. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Yay, amazing. Yeah, I was just asking you about that with grade. I'd forgotten what you told me. I knew elementary, but yeah, that's right in where my kids are grades. They just finished, one group finished grade 3, another, and then my son just finished up with grade 4. So right in that age group, and it's a fun age, but challenging, I am sure, as well.
Yeah, no, it's fun. They still like you at that age, and they're independent too. So
Yes, fair. Yeah. All right. So, and Ottawa, that's where I'm from as well. So it was nice to meet somebody, that I had no idea, members of the group I don't always know where you're from. I don't always, you could be around for a long time as well. And I don't know exactly where everyone's from or, unless you introduce yourselves in the group. So it was nice when we first touched base to learn that you were actually quite close to me. You're around the corner from where I live. So that's been kind of neat to discover. So yay, Ottawa. uh, Maybe now, Shannon, if you don't mind telling us a bit about your migraine journey, what was happening around the time we first met and what was going on for you with how you were experiencing migraine episodes and how it was affecting your life as well.
yeah, well, when I first reached out to you, I was dealing daily with head pain, whether it was headaches or migraines or tension in my head. I I felt like I was lucky if there was a day that I didn't have any of those three. Um, and I can remember having headaches as a teenager and a young adult, and I would treat those headaches with Tylenol and Advil. My mother suffered from headaches and migraines as well, and so there was always Tylenol and Advil in the house, and that's how I treated those headaches then. And it wasn't until I was 27 that I had my first migraine, and that was after I had my first child. And for the first few years, they weren't. I didn't get them often, but when I did get them, they're quite severe. I can remember going to the hospital because nothing would work, and I only had the Advil and the Tylenol to treat. So I do remember making hospital visits in those first few years. And as the years went on, the headaches increased and the migraines increased. And that's when I went to see my doctor. And so for the last 15 years, my migraines increased to the point where I was getting about 10 to 13 each month. And my doctor prescribed L-triptan medication to treat the migraines.
Mhm.
And that worked. When I did feel a migraine coming on, I would take that. But then there was the problem I had with insurance. My insurance would only cover 8 pills a month, and I was getting 10 to 13 migraines a month before I could renew my prescription again. And so that was always scary for me, the thought of not having anything to treat the migraine with. And then a lot of my headache migraines I realized came during my sleep at night. And so, in seeing with my doctor again, this was probably about 8 years ago, he then put me on amitriptyline, 20 milligrams each night before bed to help with the migraines. during the night, and that did lessen the migraines for me at night. So that was good. And while the medication did work and it did relieve the migraine attacks, there were the undesirable side effects that I was stuck dealing with after the migraine, was gone. And that was the mental fog. And that would last, the mental fog would last an entire day, sometimes into the next day. And it would affect my bowels, and I'd often be constipated. And then there was that feeling of fatigue. Whenever you take those medications, your body and muscles ache and are tired for 24 to 48 hours after. And then some other health issues I was having as well was a low energy. Over the years, I've had skin problems with hives, and I've had inflammation and swelling in my feet and legs, and then lots of abdominal gastro problems with lots of gas and stomach upset and pains and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I was when I reached out to you in April.
Oh man. And I suppose when things started escalating and you're wondering what's going on, and you've got some medication, let's say, to at least relieve the symptoms on some of those days, not perfect, because you still had, as you say, like the repercussions of whether it's the meds or hangover from the migraine, like those, that post-drome symptoms. You can probably tell the difference, because if you had to go some days without your medication as well, right? What would you do on those days where then you had run out of medication, or you were choosing not to take it to try to preserve it for another day?
I found migraine Excedrin that you could find in the States, and I used that and prayed to God that it would work. And sometimes it wouldn't work. And I would say about 3 times a year, it wouldn't work. And I'd end up with a migraine for 3 full days. And, thankfully, many of those episodes would fall in the summer on the weekends. So it didn't affect my work too much, but those were really the only things that I just treated the migraine. I treated it with medication, that Excedrin, and that's it. Yeah. Because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. So no. So, so it sounds like then if you didn't take the medication, it would be 3 days. Was that always the case for you? Or did you have a point where they would maybe last a day, but once you discovered that medication, you're like, this is going to remove the pain, I'm going to take it?
Yeah, for me, it was scary to feel the migraine and not treat it, because the risk of it lasting 3 days was just unbearable. Like it was just too painful. And so that's what I did. When I felt it, I treated it in most of and it did work. So that's what I automatically wanted to do. I didn't want to ever tough it out, or, I didn't know what else to do to try and get rid of it before taking medication. So that's what I did.
Yeah, right. And of course, then taking it early, taking it as early as, I guess, when you get warning signs, you just take it, it would work. So it sounded like for you, in your mind, things were probably working pretty well until the point where you were running out and having to just bear through painful days. And obviously those side effects that aren't great, like it must have affected how you work when you couldn't be making clear thoughts, or, with that brain fog, that cognitive sort of issue that would result at the tail end. And maybe even, I don't know if you felt the fatigue as the medication was, working and doing its thing, relieving the pain, but other symptoms. I know a lot of people talk about other symptoms that they experience, even though the pain is gone, there's still other things that it's kind of doing for them that they don't love so much. Were those affecting your work days too, or is it mainly the painful days?
No, I mean, they weren't affecting my work in the sense that I didn't miss a lot of work. Like I got through it, but I would often get migraines during the day. So when I did take that medication, yeah, I was less, clear-minded than I would have been had I not had the migraine and not taken the medication. So um, and just kind of, that feeling of numbness. So it affected my energy level and my concentration, and for sure. And at home, it affected my life. At home, I was, when you're at work, you kind of just tough and, you just get through, you just barrel through the day and get through it. And whereas when you're at home and I feel a migraine coming on, my husband understood and my kids understood I got my migraines, I would go lie down. So that would take me away from my family for hours.
Mm.
And it could have been a day, right? So that did affect my home life. It did affect my work life, and it did affect my home life greatly.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that was your motivation for wanting to learn about other ways to manage these migraines at a certain point? Like if the medication was working pretty well, was it at the point where you realized you couldn't cover all of the days because you didn't get enough medication? Was it at the point where you were realizing that even with the medication, with the pain gone, there were still parts about the side effects of the medication or of the migraine episode that, the medication wasn't helping with? There were parts that you still just wanted better, you wanted
Yeah,
to become better.
yeah, I absolutely. It got to the point where, you know, I was getting 13, 10 to 13 migraines a month and taking this medication. And I just found myself always thinking about the future. Like, this, is this going to be the rest of my life? Am I going to be getting this many migraines? And like, what happens when I'm older? What happens if I don't have coverage for this medication eventually down the road? And it really bothered me that I didn't understand why I was getting them.
Right. You could see the medication wasn't preventing the episodes. It was just helping
Yes.
you kind of manage through
Yeah.
them.
And then my way of thinking started changing. Like, why I don't want to treat the migraine anymore. I want to know why I'm getting it so that I can change whatever it is that I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the motivation for me, that just wanting to be healthy, wanting to, like, as I'm approaching my 50s, I just wanted to be healthy. And in order to be healthy, I needed to deal with the migraines and figure out why I was getting them and what I could do to prevent
Mm-hmm.
them.
And how did you go about that? Once uh, made that decision that I want to find a way to find out why these are happening and get, let's say, at the roots, even if you didn't phrase it that way in your own mind, I want to get at the root causes of these migraines and actually prevent the episodes from happening in the first place instead of just treating the symptoms. Even with the preventive, like stopping the migraine episodes that were starting in the middle of the night for you, like that must have been a huge relief to be done with those. But then once you made that decision, like, I want to do things differently, what steps did you take for yourself to try
I
and help it that way?
Well, I really, it was a lot of reading, a lot of like going on the internet and, um, trying, Googling causes of migraines, the relationship between diet, lifestyle, and I started reading a lot. I bought a few books that dealt with migraine, diet, and
Mm-hmm.
I implemented some of those and I made some small changes, but I just felt overwhelmed anytime I come away from the books. Like, I'd read it, I'd see things I need, but there was there was no person attached to those books. There was no one I could ask questions to. There was no guarantee. There was no step-by-step plan, right? So I often would read and learn and then walk away and think and just be in the same spot month after month, not knowing where to start.
Right. So you felt that gap between, okay, I've read all these things and there's maybe ideas there. Had you implemented some of them, like tried some things here and there? And if so, like, did
I
any of them help?
I did. I did do some of that, but then there was no way for me to connect for sure what it was that I was changing to the results I was getting. And then I would get a migraine, and then
Mhm.
I would stop, because I thought, well, I did all this, I made all these changes,
Mhm.
and then I got a migraine, so it mustn't be that.
Mhm.
So I would scrap that, and then I'd go back and read, and I just was like just running in circles.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's not for lack of information out there or resources, right?
Right.
There's a ton of, I mean, research on migraine specifically is fairly new. Like it's not, decades upon decades old as in terms of getting in deep and really understanding. There's still a lot of unknowns around why people have migraine episodes. But the way that, therefore, if you don't know, and even if you do know, the way that I believe, in my experience and the way that I approach things is just backing it up to whatever an individual's root causes are, what would set their body on a path of imbalance, what their history looks like, and all of this. Like it sounds complex. It can be, but it can also be simplified in that manner so that you're not having to find like that one right kind of idea out there or person that has a protocol laid out and follow that. You can mix and match, and you can create a plan for yourself, but it's hard to do for yourself without that broader understanding of things and knowing how the body works and how everything interacts, and how a history plays into it and how your current circumstances play into it. Like I can see, and I know because I've experienced it too, how just going out there and reading all of the, even if it's trustworthy research, and even if it's somebody who has specified things around, framed things around the context of migraine and has a special diet or a plan, that might not be right for you because it hasn't taken into the consideration all of those other things, all the person's individual circumstances and physiology and all of that. And like you say, there's nobody to go and ask questions to. There's nobody to like help you assess when something's working, when something, if you feel effects after making a change, what does this mean? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Sometimes weird symptoms that pop up when we do something might not be anything scary. It might not be anything to be concerned about. It's just we ought to keep going with it. Or it might mean let's pause, or it might mean let's slow down. Like that's where a lot of people find themselves starting to feel overwhelmed. Like it's the amount of the abundance of information, the conflicting information, but it's also just that what's right for me, right? So yeah, I can totally empathize with what you described there for your efforts, but like then not really translating into either efforts at all because you were just lost, like confused,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
actually implementing something and hoping you could be proud of that effort and change, right? But then, like you say, feeling like you're back at square one when you get another major migraine and you're like, not working, didn't
Exactly.
work. Yeah. Um, okay, so then maybe you can share what point did you, I guess, discover either the group or this approach? Was this kind of the next thing that came up for you, or had you spoken with some practitioners or kind of experimented with other types of maybe alternative therapies or something?
No, I had, read and thought about it all. I thought about acupuncture. I thought about Botox. I thought about, going to see a naturopath doctor. I thought about it all, but that's the extent of it. I just thought about it, and I even looked up places where I could go. I had contacts listed, and I just couldn't make that first step. And because I just wasn't unsure. I wanted a contact. I wanted someone to tell me, listen, I've gone to see this person and this is how I'm doing now. Like I wanted proof before I kind of made that first step. And and then I think it was during the pandemic, and I was home and on my phone a lot, and I came across the um,
Raise your
your Facebook.
resilience, the
Yes,
raise your
Raise Your
resilience
Resilience,
to your
because there's the
migraines.
Migraine Resilience Method and there's Raise Your Resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across your site on Facebook, and um, And I read your story and I thought to myself, this is my story. It could have been me you were writing about. It had that many similarities. But I didn't do anything with it. I followed the Facebook group, and I would read through things that you would post, and so I followed it, and I kind of, read it, and I would think about it, and I did that for 3 years in the back of my mind. Like, I had tried these, diet things on my own, and then I'd go back and visit your group, and I would read through, and then I would leave, and I would think, and I wouldn't do anything again. I was still kind of just waiting, and then I came across your group again this last spring, and I don't know, it was just at a time where I was so desperate, and I had it. I had enough. I need to fix this. And I read through, and then I clicked the messenger and I sent you a message, and now we're sitting here. So it took me, a while to do that, but that's how it came to be that I reached out to you.
Hey, everyone has their path to, everyone has their journey, everyone has their path. And, the way I see things, everything happens and falls into place in the time it's supposed to and how it's supposed to. But it does require us to see those messages, or to acknowledge those signs, and then take the step and go after it. Right. And I think that's where people get stuck, is in that, well, the worst place to be stuck, in my opinion, is in that like middle grounds, in that space between making a decision or feeling stuck is another really hard place to be in. It sounds like that's where you were, and that, searching and wondering and, wanting to do something, but not knowing what, that's like that fuzzy gray area is a hard place to be. So I'm glad that you reached out on that day, and, we connected, and, fairly soon after, you were starting in the program and starting to make the changes. And how was that experience for you? Like, what were your first several weeks like? And maybe you can share a bit about then how you felt things progressed and changed for you after that point.
Yeah. So when I joined, I dove straight in. Like, when I did reach out to you, I was so ready and committed, and I was going to do whatever it took to figure this out. And so I, took all the suggestions that you made in the beginning and started implementing things right away. And I think it was 4 weeks in when, for the first time ever in my life, the first migraine came, and I did what you told me to do, and it worked. And I didn't take medication, and I used only the natural remedies, and it worked. And that for me was kind of just the first, piece of success that I had in the program, and it happened early, and that motivated me, and I just kept going. And so that's, and that continued to work every time that I did get a migraine. And so that was the first thing. And then it was shortly after that where I realized I wasn't needing my medication, because I wasn't treating it with the triptans. And I opened my drawer, and I realized, oh my gosh, like, I'm ready to refill my prescription, and I have 5-6 pills left over here. And that hadn't happened in 15 years. I was always panicking, waiting for that prescription renewal to come up so that I could fill it, and I wouldn't be stuck without, my medication. And so that was the second thing that happened early on for me. And then the next big one was 8 or 9 weeks into the program. I was completely off my amitriptyline that I take before bed. With, the help of my doctor, I weaned off from 20 milligrams to 10 milligrams. At 6 or 7 weeks, and then at 8 or 9, I went down to none, and um, I haven't had any of that medication in 3 or 4 weeks now.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Good for you. Congratulations. And I know that, like, how did you feel around that decision? Because, was
Oh, it
that
was
a bit
scary
scary for you? Were you wondering what would
for
happen?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was scared. I was motivated.
Hmm.
Um, and I wasn't as scared when I dropped from 20 milligrams to 10, especially after like the first week, and I realized, okay, I'm good. I'm okay. It was scary taking away that last 10 milligrams for me. Um, but it was a scary thought and feeling, but I was also excited too, because I knew, I had had all this success so far since joining the program, that I just had this good feeling that it was going to
Yeah.
continue, and it did. So
Confidence. And yeah, and I believe you said it, but just to reiterate for anyone listening, it's like, this is something, actually, Shannon, you decided this on your own. I don't even know that we discussed it. I think I knew that your goals were to reduce medication in general and to be off of it ideally, but we didn't necessarily discuss this preventative. But you did talk about it with your doctor. Your doctor helped you understand exactly how you should be coming off of it, in that, because these are it's a type of medication that you do not just want to be stopping cold turkey, and it can have really bad effects for people to be coming off of it, even if they're weaning off of it according to their doctor's advice. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that out there,
yeah,
and confirm that was, I think that's how I remembered anyways, that you were just like, I'm feeling good about things, I feel like I want to start to try to see what coming off of this will be like,
yeah.
and you'll
And
be okay.
fortunately, I have a really good doctor who respected what I was trying to do here, and he was very supportive and was, you know, ready to help me do it. So,
Awesome. Amazing. And that's huge about the triptans, like, for going so many years, with that anxiety around running out before the end of the month every month. Um, and it's a bit of a safety thing too. Like, at a certain point, taking more triptans than allotted can lead to rebound headache. It can lead to more headaches than you would otherwise have without taking any, or with it taking less. So there's a reason, like, insurance won't cover more. It's also, I don't think the doctor would prescribe more, in certain situations,
yeah,
because of what they've tested this medication to be, like, the range the limits they have on safety. So, that's obviously was a huge relief for you. And what about the Excedrin migraine? Like, had you also been using that to fill gaps in? I'm assuming if you're not running out of the prescription meds, you're probably also taking less of that.
I never take, I haven't taken Excedrin in weeks. And I don't get daily headaches anymore. So it's, yeah, I don't take it. I have a bottle there,
Mhm.
um, but I don't need it.
Amazing. And this is
Yeah,
another one that can very easily lead to rebound headache for
yeah,
people. They think because the things that are over the counter are going to be okay and not contribute to that problem. But really, any medication can just overall increase our toxicity load. And it just depends on how well our organs are working. And I mean,
mhm,
over time, who knows, depending on your physiology and your genetics and all this, like, some people have a harder time metabolizing medication, or it taking certain medication over a longer period, it changes things, and it can cause its own issues down the road. So, Excedrin migraine is definitely one that we have to be careful about, with regards to how often we're taking it, how frequently, and whether it may actually be contributing to the issue or causing more headaches than we would otherwise be dealing with. But when you've got pain, you do what you have to do. You do what works. You do what you know how to do. So, no judgment for anybody who's turning to medication. Is just, let's have a plan and start putting into place things that we can start to move away from those and not have to rely on so many so often, right?
yeah. And that's just it. Like, it for so many years, I just thought, you know, I get migraines. This is just my life, and I need to treat them, and this is how it's gonna be. I didn't know there were other options, or I didn't know there were ways of, preventing.
Yeah,
So
it's not something our doctors are proficient in or trained in, and even headache specialists or migraine specialists, like they're not necessarily in the know about alternative ways to go about things. They know what they're trained in, they know about what is in their own toolbox, and they'll run down the list of medications and treatments and see what works. And they all want, hopefully, ideally, like they're all looking for relief for their patients and to help their
right,
patients. There's, it's nothing against them. It's just not all are aware. They don't expand their awareness around other ways to approach things. But at the very least, if they can be supportive, through their patient trying other things, that's, I think, the most we can ask and expect of our doctors. And it's an important element. Like, I'd hope that people are choosing their practitioners. We can be a bit picky sometimes. I mean, it's hard to find doctors, I know, in Canada anyways, like
yeah,
you can't be like jumping around or anything, but to find somebody that can at least be supportive and help you do what you're trying to achieve with your medications as you're improving by working in the other spaces with the holistic approach, the natural approach, and getting at actual root causes, and you start to get that confidence because you're feeling better. Then it's usually kind of a next phase is to start to say, okay, now I'm feeling confident I'm using less naturally, or I'm feeling confident to start weaning off, reducing, and see where it goes. And
yeah,
if we are actually in fact raising our resilience, raising our migraine threshold, then that should be the result. It should be a successful result to be able to use less medication. Some people are able to get away from it entirely, like completely, and some it's just way less that they're taking, and that is a huge win, either way, right? So,
totally.
I think so now, I guess you're about 11 weeks in to the program,
Mhm.
12 weeks. How are you feeling? You mentioned no more daily headaches, which is amazing. You mentioned far fewer migraine episodes, almost very few that you need to treat anyways with medications.
Yeah,
What is, and I guess even otherwise, how are you feeling? Like, what other symptoms have improved for you?
yeah. A big one for me is I don't wake up in the morning with aches and pains in my body. I've said this line so many times, so many people I think feel like anybody who would listen to me, that when I get up in the morning, I describe it as I feel like I'm 80 years old. Like, what's happening with me? And I don't feel like that anymore. So the changes that I've made through the program um, have, you know, have taken that away. My I'm my stomach always feels great. I don't have any digestive discomforts anymore. My entire life, I've had bloating and gas problems forever. I'd be that person, going to a wedding or a function, and I wouldn't want to eat before uh, because I'd have bloating and
You
my
need to
stomach
fit
would,
into your dress.
yeah, I'd need to fit in my dress and be comfortable.
Yeah.
And that was me, like with anything. And I don't have that anymore. Like I don't have the gas buildup. I don't have pains. I don't have bloating. My stomach always is fine. And that is probably I mean, aside from not getting the migraines that I used to get, that is like the best feeling in the world, to be to be comfortable in your clothes, and to go out of the house and do things and know that I'm not going to be in discomfort,
Yeah.
and my stomach look like I'm 4 months pregnant by the time I get home in the evening, like at the end of the night. So
So
that
cool. Did you
is,
think that was normal, like because of how long you'd experienced it for, because of how many other people around you
yes,
probably feel something similar, right? A lot of
yeah,
people deal with gas and bloating and that. So
yeah,
what did you think about it?
oh, for sure. Yeah, I thought it was normal, until of course later on in life, when you do lots of reading, you realize it's not normal. And, um, but yeah, it's, that's been awesome. I've lost a little bit of weight as well. like it was, well, 10 pounds a few weeks ago. I don't know what it is now. I
That's
think it's probably
amazing.
still the
That's not
same.
even just a like
Yeah.
that's a for in just 12 weeks. That's, I would say, like the most you would probably want to lose
Yeah. Yeah.
in that
No,
period
I
of
feel
time,
good.
right? Like that's a safe, good
Yeah.
um cadence
Yeah.
of
Now
weight loss.
I just need to be, and now I just need to build muscle and do that. But yeah, so
That's
there's
cool.
that. The daily headaches are gone. I have more energy. I don't get the crazy sugar cravings. Like I still have treats in the house because I have kids, and I don't want to grab those anymore because it's just not worth it. So I don't get the sugar cravings. I don't get those hunger pains, that you'd get if with the way that I used to eat,
Hmm.
and the mental clarity, like the brain fog, and just the lack of energy and wanting to nap all the time.
Yeah.
That's gone. My skin is clear because over the last 20 years, I have dealt with like dermatitis and eczema, and that's doing, like, I'm doing well with that as well.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
skin
So
issues come from
lots.
the inside out.
Mhm.
Energy issues too. It's not always just about sleep and how long you're sleeping. It's so much more than that. So you've really this is again taking a root causes approach. This is how symptoms of all kinds can improve. It's not just a target. We don't just target the head with migraine, and not that that would work anyways, but we don't just target the head. We don't just target from like the shoulders up kind of thing. It's a whole body.
Yeah.
um, we're looking at the whole body and what is struggling. And, when you first filled out intake forms and you indicated what symptoms you were dealing with, the formula can show what body symptoms are struggling most. And I mean, I don't know if you've compared your symptoms from start to end, from, back in early May when you started to now, but even just this short time, your uh, the top symptoms that were problematic for you were like, digestive, intestinal, and hormonal, like endocrine system, your glands and hormonal system. Um, and also your circulatory system actually, was your cardiovascular system. That one kind of was ranking high on that scale. And, every body system, including those, have all improved by 80 to 90%. Your scores came down. And that was, so from your symptoms, how how things have reflected in your symptoms. Well, your scores also show that things have significantly improved. And that's how taking that root cause approach can just across the board and be improving things. So not just that primary sort of complaint or concern, but everything just starts working better. And so
Yeah.
when we have skin issues, like that's often an indication of digestive issues. They're very interconnected. And our energy levels, it's not just low energy because of dealing with pain or migraine, although that can be, goes that way for sure. But it's also just how, improving your metabolism, improving your stamina through, if your cells are being fed, because you're able to break down your food, digest your food, and break it down and absorb it, your cells are being nourished better, your energy levels will come up. So that's with everything that you've been working on. This is how it's kind of like translated for you, which is really awesome. So, congratulations on those great improvements. And where do you feel like, where are you hoping to kind of from here continue improving? Where do you still feel like there's some room for further improvement?
Right now, what I'm working on is the whole movement piece, exercising and in getting outside and building muscle. So I think it was in one of my blood tests too. You could tell from my blood work that I needed to build muscle. Like that was, so interesting to me because I do. So that's the piece that it's going to take me a while, but I've,
What are
started.
the goals for you though with the more muscle? What do you hope to achieve, or how do you think it'll make you feel different I mean,
Oh, I
more
think,
energy is like a given, right?
I
But
think
beyond that,
just, yeah, more energy and, like more energy and just being stronger. Like I notice in my job all the time how like my body has aged and I can't do the things that I used to do. And I don't think that's necessarily an age thing. It's a lack of movement and lack of, taking care of my body in that physical um aspect. So
which would have been
yeah,
really hard to do given how you were feeling, right? It's
yeah,
just where that chicken and egg problem. Someone's not feeling very well a lot of the time. And even if you're on medication and the acute pain is gone, you're still, like you say, tired, your brain is foggy, you're not feeling like yourself. And so any extra time or energy you might have is not going to be, you're not going to be inspired to, go and exercise. And I actually wouldn't necessarily promote or encourage that for people that are dealing with a lot of stress from pain and migraine episodes, because it might just work against you at that point. But it's like when your body's more ready for it, when you're more ready for it, that can just take you that one step further and improve things even more.
yes, that's where I am, because I agree. When you're in that, back in April for however how many years, I feel like I would try and be active, and I just was constantly exhausted. I was
Yeah.
constantly just, well, like with 10 to 13 migraines a month, you're constantly dealing with all of that. I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah. You're
So
just
I've had,
survival mode.
yeah.
You're
So
not
I've,
exactly, and yeah, you're not feeling that motivation to get
yeah,
moving.
yeah,
And it's that chicken and egg problem with the energy. It's like, yeah, we lack the energy um
yeah,
to get moving, even though the gurus will keep telling you you need to build muscle or you need to move your body to gain more energy. But depending on how your endocrine system is doing, how your adrenal glands are doing, more exercise or more intense levels of exercise can deplete you further and
yeah,
actually lower your energy, make you feel worse, give you more migraine episodes. So this is where some people will say, well, no, I can't exercise, or exercise doesn't work well for me. I can't do it. Even if you're telling me to, and I need to do it to be healthy, sorry, can't do it. But it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to do it for the rest of life. It means you just need to take some steps first. And that's where kind of the step-by-step plan comes in, right? And getting that, having
yes,
that guidance on, okay, what can I do today, given what my situation is and what my life looks like? What adjustments do I have to make? What 1, 2, 3 things can I doing this week to get me that much better so that next week I can layer something else on, or even a few
yes.
weeks from now, layer
And
on.
that was that was the piece of the program that I love so much too. Like this, that guidance. And I remember at the beginning of the program, you told me to kind of just, put the activity and the working out and that aside. And I was more than happy to do that because I didn't know how I was going to like do all of these, things at once. And that's, you know, why I think I was able to be so successful, is because you encouraged to just do things slowly, one at a time, and that's what I did, and then I was able to stick to it.
Yeah, I think that's why people do get so overwhelmed by the
Mhm.
idea of a program, or they're like, oh, well, what if I don't feel like I could do one more thing right now?
Yeah.
That's what they'll say, or I can't fit one more thing in. I don't have energy for any extra. It would be too overwhelming for me. No, well, that's the idea of having something to follow for one. And if you have a real life person interacting with you, and it's not just like an off the shelf follow this protocol thing, that's where you'll get the personalized sort of guidance to say, this one thing, we need to find a way to fit this in this week. And then it's interesting sometimes what we include in our lives and in our day that aren't absolute necessities or non-negotiables. Like we think that we are, and that we're maxed out because we can't let go of any one thing. But sometimes it's just finding an efficiency, or pairing something with something else to make it doable. And then once you're feeling better, all of a sudden also our mind opens up to new possibilities, and we have more creative ideas about how to accomplish something that at one point felt impossible or hard. Now it feels doable. Now it feels lighter. It feels,
Yeah.
you know, are there any other parts of the process for you that either ahead of time or while you were in it, you were like, this is helping me actually find success with it?
Well, the entire program has, just been a gift to me. Just like having the guidance from the very first day and you telling me exactly what to do
Mhm.
was everything that I wanted, like for such a long time. And I knew I could commit and I was motivated, but it was you showing me the steps and telling me this is where you're entering and this is what you need to do, and having that guidance through the weeks too, um, are what allowed me to find success. Like there is no guessing. This is what you're doing this week. This is in it, all I had to do was follow it, right? Like the program was just awesome. Like I didn't it, it was just so easy to follow. Everything was so laid out, like the teaching that happens in it, the learning that happens, and making this small tweaks one thing at a time. I, like everything about the program was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy that you had that experience with it. And I mean, that's the idea. That's the intention behind why it's laid out that way, and how
Yeah.
I've, arranged things. So it's great to hear that you appreciate those aspects of it. And obviously on your part, it's two ways. It's like it's there for you, but then you have to are the one that's making the steps, right? And committed. And like you say, you felt very committed in starting. And that's what I always make sure of before anyone joins. If someone is not committed to their journey, it's not for them, not at this point in time anyways. So you
No,
have to
and
be committed, right? But at the
I
same
can,
time, it's like it's like the easiest way to kind of make progress if you're committed, because of how everything is there for you and the guidance is there. It kind of fills in those gaps.
yeah, 100%. You have to be motivated and you have to want it, and you have to make that. It's like a promise to yourself. Like you have to commit, and if you can't, I remember you asking me that actually at the beginning of the program before I had signed up with you. You
Mhm.
asked me that question. It stuck with me, and I thought, geez, am I ready? I'm like, I almost questioned myself, but I knew, I appreciated hearing that from you, because that meant that, you knew what you were doing and you knew what it was going to take, and you needed the person that you're going to coach through to be just as committed. And now that I've, gone through it, I see how important a truthful answer to that question was.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Like I'll put in as much effort as I need to, but I need to see it matched on the other end, because and I don't want to see anyone fail for
Yeah.
just lack of showing up. And so the people that are committed are show up. That's all that you need to do. Show up and make the 1, 2, 3 steps. And I
Yeah.
know people worry, what if I can't? We work it out. We talk it through. We brainstorm. We find ways to overcome roadblocks. We work through that together. And so in that sense, there's no, like, unless you literally don't show up at all and don't do anything, like nobody comes out without benefit. The range, it can range for sure. It can vary the results, but it can just take longer is my experience with it. Though it's not even that somebody might not get results. It's more, it may take longer for some people depending on what their life looks like, for one, what their actual physiology is like,
Yep.
and what is actually going on. Some things can take longer to translate into results, but we make sure that you are taking steps to at least be progressing and not be moving backwards, which unfortunately a lot of people will experience. And unfortunately, people are in usually a desperate situation by the time they're open to being that committed and working together and doing this program. People feel that they've reached that point of desperation. And I know I said at the beginning that in my view, it's like things transpire, they think they happen, they manifest as they're supposed to, in the timing they're supposed to, when people are ready for them and all of that. But and I don't want to like place any guilt or regrets on people, but do you, in hindsight, think that hope or wish that you had started in earlier or taken the leap sooner? Or do you feel like, no, the timing was right for me. I needed to sit on it for that long. I needed to go through this process, through that process in order to get here. Or now that you're in it, do you kind of wish that you had jumped in a couple years earlier?
Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I wish I, had come across this 15 years ago. I wish, like it, I, lived like this for so many years. Who wouldn't want to have, um, found the solution and earlier than they did? But maybe I might not have been as successful. I don't know why it happened the way it did.
Yeah.
I kind of tend to focus on just being so thankful that I came across the site in 2020. And yes, it took me 3 years, but I'm so happy that I clicked send on that message in April,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for, all of the success you've experienced. And so far, you're not even through the whole thing yet. There's still some weeks to go. And of course, journey is ongoing. There's always more that can be, improved upon, for myself included, like nobody is, but obviously once you're at that point where you go from like that many days, 10, 13 days of symptoms down all the way down, like, well, these days, I don't know, how many days a month would you say you're experiencing, you having migraine episodes or symptoms of migraine?
Right now, I maybe have a migraine every 10 days, so maybe 3 a month.
Okay, so yeah, much better,
Yeah,
far improved.
and that's okay with me because I know I'm not done everything that I need to do. Like you
Yeah,
said, you move through the program and some things take you a little bit longer than others, and everybody works at it at a different pace. And
yeah,
I'm not worried about it because I know there's things that I still need to do.
yeah,
And once I've, reached that, then maybe I might not have any in a month.
yeah. Wouldn't that be
That I
amazing?
truly believe that is going to happen because I'm not done everything that I need to do.
I think that's possible for you too. And even just
Yeah.
time, our body needs time. It takes time and consistency doing all the things
Yeah.
for your body to change, for your physiology to change, your imbalances to kind of balance out, and you know so that's why even just if you don't change one more thing, you may still continue to experience improvements. But certainly, yes, layering on more as needed is going to get you there even faster, or it'll get you even further than it would otherwise. So what would you say to somebody who then maybe is where you were 3 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago? Like somebody that may be going through that same thought process. I just need to do more research. I just need to read more things and keep trying harder or whatnot. Like if they are, for whatever reason, putting aside the idea of joining onto a program, maybe because they're fearful of the commitment or they don't think it'll work for them, like what maybe words of wisdom or advice would you have for those people?
Well, I mean, I think back to me before I joined the program and all the things, that kind of went through my head. And that, the voice that I always had in my head that said to me, you have migraines. This is, my mother had it. I know other people that have had them. This is a lifelong thing that you're going to have to deal with. This is how you deal with it. And that's all you can do. And that is absolutely wrong. And, I had never come across anybody or anything that said anything any different. So when I would say, if you have that, inner voice telling you that, like, stop listening to it. And if you're constantly, thinking to yourself, I want to manage these migraines, I want to prevent the migraines, or if you feel like migraines control your life, which I would say they controlled my life. Would, I hated, social events because often, I'd have a migraine on the other end of the event, and or family vacations, I'll always have it at the back of my head, like, how many days am I going to be, put out because of a migraine coming out of you? If you find yourself, you know, that migraines are controlling your life, then you need to ask yourself that, like, this program, actually not ask yourself, you need to know that this program is what you need in your life to teach you how to make the diet and lifestyle changes so that you can be in control. Because I definitely feel like I have control over my migraines today. I wouldn't have said that 3-4 months ago. So I think that was kind of something that I just couldn't get out of my head. I accepted that they were going to control my life and I just needed to manage them when they came. And that's not the case. And if you're, have come across a program like this and are looking at it and thinking about it, don't wait. Just don't wait, because knowing what I know now after starting the program and going through it, it is so very difficult to do it on your own. Like, now that I've done it and I've seen it and have had you walk me through it and made all these changes, there's no way I could have figured this out on my own. Not unless I went to, school for many years, and it's just not possible. You need someone to tell you what to do, to show you what to do, to give you all the steps. And
and I think that's hard for a lot of people to accept, is that they might need help along, because wow, thank you for sharing all of that and your thoughts around this. And I feel like, yes, this is the way that a lot of people do think, like, it's genetic, I can't control it. Because that's all mostly what doctors are saying and believe. That, again, they're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or be dishonest. They haven't been taught or trained to think any differently, and they haven't had that personal experience. By now, any clients who I've had who have talked to their doctors about what they've gone through and done, I'm assuming those doctors now know what's possible. I don't know, though. Maybe they think it's just a fluke and it's just their one patient and then it wouldn't work for anyone else. I don't know. But it's too bad. It's like, certainly that's something what is working against a lot of people, is they don't believe things can get better. They think that there's only either keeping things status quo, managing, or they get worse. Again, because of a lot of effort people may have already put in, but it's the doing it on your own and not having somebody maybe help you assess what you might need to be actually doing and putting in place to get better results, to get faster results, and keep that motivation up. And also, like, you're a teacher, right? You're an educator. You self-educated. You did all of the research. You did all the reading. And for a lot of the women I work with are like that. They're also very A-type personalities. They very much like, I want to figure it out on my own. I can, because they have self-confidence, which is amazing. They're like, but also have a hard time asking for help, because feeling like it's somehow letting themselves down, but no, it's like you say, if it's not your profession, you can't expect to be the expert in it. Like, and there is a wide variety and range of thoughts and ideas floating around out there, and not all of them may be right. Not all of them may be right for you. And that's why it's very much like the whole process, right, is a partnership, and you're the expert in you and your symptoms. And then I'm the expert on how to help you evaluate what's working for you or not. And if you have confusion around why you're having these symptoms and why when you do this happens, like, that's where I can help you make links. And also knowing your history and your current situation inside and out, by the time, we're working that closely together, it's easier for me, who has that experience. And then you come with this experience in your own. And that's how it makes such a nice pairing to get the faster results, right? And to get the results, period. So I'm sure this is going to land for some people. It's going to hit them. And I'm hoping like I don't think anyone should ever have regrets for what they have done or haven't done in the past. Like we all do our best with the information we have along the way in our journey. And, my program didn't exist 15 years ago. And so you would not have been able to join it.
That's
I don't know that
true.
anything like it exists. Like the holistic health field was different back then. And
Yeah.
nowadays it is just about finding a practitioner you resonate with, who you feel listens to you, who if you learn about their process, you feel like it's the right amount of touch points in that, because that's another thing. Like you can work with an amazing, smart, intelligent naturopathic or alternative health or holistic doctor or practitioner. But if they're really busy, if their appointments are, even 45 minutes long, but they're only every month or every 2 months, like that might not be quite enough for what you need to work your way through things.
Yeah, and it's
right?
funny, like you bring that up, because that was, when I first came across you and I saw the program, I and I learned that it was virtual,
Mhm.
and part of me was wanting to go somewhere and meet with a doctor and sit down, right? So I was kind of hesitant about that, but I couldn't imagine doing it any other way now. Like it's just because I'm constantly connected with you through, the group, and the calls that we do every week, and it's
Messenger, texting, whatever,
yes.
email.
And that, like, at the beginning I thought, oh geez, like how's that going to work? I want to show up at a doctor's office, and but
I could have
it's
invited you to my home. You're living
yeah.
10 minutes away
True.
from me.
That's true. But like this was perfect, because it allows you to continue. Everyone has a busy life and has kids and work and jobs, and it allowed you to stay in contact through different means, like through all those ways that you had just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have worked if I had to go outside my house every time I needed guidance. It just wouldn't have worked. So I get it now.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, we're, I guess, about an hour in. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Shannon. I'm so happy for all of the great success you've had so far. And, it's been a pleasure working together, seeing each other every week. And yeah, just keep going, like keep it up. We've got a plan for what's next for you. And I'm excited to see how
Mm.
that helps, what the next step is for you at that point.
Yeah, well, thank you, Julie. I mean, I'm excited because I know people who suffer from migraines just like I do, um and I've shared it with everyone that I could have shared with already, but that, at the end of the school year, when I was just starting the program, and I'm excited to go back to work, and
Mm.
in these conversations, and I know people are going to be asking me, how you doing and how was it, and I'm very excited to share the progress that I've made. And I think I'm most excited about maybe, you know, um, connecting somebody else with the program.
Mm.
If people will just kind of listen and try it, and um, so yeah, I'm excited to share that my journey with others, and hope that somebody else will reach out to you,
Well, I'm sure
because it
your story is
works.
going to inspire. Your story is certainly going to inspire people. I hope they inspires people in action, no matter what action they take. Just
Yeah.
yes, do not lose hope. Do not think that this is just some genetic thing you have to deal with, because relatives deal with the same thing. This is
Mhm.
something that can shift for you. So yeah, I hope that, I'm sure a lot of people have similar sort of thought processes as you had. And, um, hearing your story, I'm hoping will just, again, give them hope that they don't need to feel stuck. They don't need to stay stuck, and they'll find their right path and their right person. But you do have to kind of take the first step into starting in.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon. If anyone has questions for Shannon, and she's willing and open to it, like post in the comments, if you've got questions for her, and she can
Yeah,
answer
of
them in
course.
there. Okay.
Of
Well,
course.
thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, Shannon, and we'll be speaking soon.
Okay, take care, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.